Get by the grand now, feeling in command now. They're looking right at me to see if I succeed, to see if I believe. They're looking up to me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now. Girl, you got me shook from the way your body looks. Got me riding hooks, got me feeling like a rook. I don't do it by the book, but for you I'll take a look. Don't know what your mama took, sweet and spicy like a cook, yeah. I'll keep it real, let's make a deal. Buy you a meal if you just let me feel. Get out your heels, grab on the wheel. Back to my place at the top of the hill.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the episode 4 of Season 2's NEXXTCAR Podcast. We're joined by a guest star today, Pierce Posse. What's going on, buddy? That's Trenton Branson in iRacing.
What's up?
Not too much, man. Welcome to your first podcast episode this season.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And, of course, you guys know the two guys on the bottom. We got the defending Cup Series champion, Matthew Tucker. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Ronnie? After the last 2 nights we've had NEXXTCAR Racing, good to debrief a little bit.
Absolutely. And then still looking for that elusive first win, Peyton Tulloch. What's going on, man?
Start off with a low blow, huh? It's going okay running.
Hey, I started the truck series.
He's got wins. He's got wins in my life.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
Not on iRacing though. Not in the new era of NEXXTCAR. But hey, I started off the truck series broadcast, throwing some shade at you. Got to start the podcast off with it too.
I see how it is.
Absolutely. But man, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight here on the NEXXTCAR side before we move over into NASCAR and the SRX. But this week, we went right back to IRP in the truck series. Peyton, that's where things really reached their peak for you and a couple other drivers last season. And it was another rough one for a couple drivers.
Yeah, IRP, man, I really hope we don't go back. I have some bad memories for both trips. You heard me talk about it in my post-race interview. It was a very, very wild week at IRP. I think a lot of guys, it's a weekend to forget. I think there's very few that will look back on it being pretty happy with the results. But hey, at least we made it through, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, hopefully it's not on the schedule next season. We thought because of how everyone had improved from last season to this season. I mean, Phoenix was a completely different race than it was last season. There was that little bit of hope that maybe IRP was going to have the same results. But, Matt, as things went on in the race, it did not, as you found yourself in about the first 3 or 4 cautions of the night.
Yeah, I felt like a cat, man. I was using all my 9 lives up in the first 40 laps, but yeah, we struggled a little bit in the beginning. Ended up bouncing back top 10. I'll take that. I mean, top 10s in our league are hard to come by, so you got to take everyone that you can get. So, I think early on in the race, like I think you just had your guy, like we talked about the podcast before, like it was gonna be aggressive. So they basically ended up living up to that, and throughout the middle of the race, had some good green flag runs, and into the race, you guys were just getting aggressive. So, but cautions breed cautions, and that's what we ended up having, the green white checker at the end. Then Ronnie Norman was able to come away with the victory, and he was just dominant the whole race too.
Absolutely. Trenton, you had yourself a pretty quiet race at IRP. I think you got involved in, one caution, if I'm not mistaken, but you had a pretty quiet night there.
Yeah, we weren't terrible. I definitely didn't have the race winning speed, but we weren't terrible. I had a good race going until I didn't know where the pace car was and got trapped a lap down.
Yeah, that's a rough one to swallow right there. You know, that pace car. You got to be careful because a lot of things that people forget about, and I'm guilty of it too, is the pace speed might be, say, 55 mile an hour. Well, guess what? Pit road speed's only 45 or whatever. So you got to try to factor that in. And thankfully though, we didn't have anyone get messed over at their pit stops this weekend. So that was good to see, because last week at Phoenix, a couple of guys that were leading in the truck race, they found themselves on the short end of the stick on that one.
Yeah, for sure. It just sucked, the iRacing opened the pits before we were all caught up, and that's kind of what threw the timing off in terms of when I could get out.
Absolutely. But, yeah, Peyton, I mean, I talked about it at the beginning of the truck race. That's the track that ultimately your decision led to you losing the championship in the truck series last season. But, did you go into this race at IRP with that in the back of your head, or were you like, you know what, it's a new season, putting that behind us? Because the guy you did it with was suspended for that race, ironically. So,
not really. Looking back on last season, there was a lot of ifs and buts for me. Like, I had a really dumb mistake in a Canadian Tire that cost me a point, and a point was what I lost by. So there's multiple things I can look back last season on why I didn't win the championship. So going into this race, I just kind of knew, I knew Camaro wasn't racing, but I wasn't really that worried about him. If he raced, I'd have had the same mindset. It was just kind of I wanted to go in there and survive. I was super calm and really relaxed at the beginning of that race. I was not pushing at all. And I guess other guys were. I got collected into it. So I wouldn't say last season really made me treat this race differently than I would have. It's just, I guess I had a little bit in the back of my head. It gave me more reason to be a little more calm, I guess.
Absolutely. Matt, what were you able to learn from last season to bring over to this season's IRP?
Basically, kind of felt like you could run anywhere really on the track. Like, you didn't really have to run the top, but you could basically diamond the turns and in the one, and the off of 4 was pretty technical. But tell you what, the wall came out and bit a lot of guys at IRP too. You had a lot of guys getting off the corners and just barely kissing it. I think that's what caused a couple of incidents. But other than that, it was just basically survive. It was a survival race for almost everybody. I mean, Ronnie Norman was class of the field, ended up lapping almost everybody, but except there was at one point there was like 5 trucks only lap. So it was a grind for sure, and I think some guys ended up better than what they thought they were going to finish throughout the whole race, and some guys thought they were going to get a better finish that ended up towards the back of the pack. But overall, it wasn't the worst race that we could have had. It started off good, but then ended up, and the finish was actually pretty good too. So overall, pretty good.
Absolutely. How about you, Trenton?
Yeah, no, I thought the race overall, like I said, it went fairly well. Of course, got involved in a wreck there at the end that kind of sucked. But no, I feel like the race went well. I mean, yeah, there's a lot more cautions than I would like to see, but guys are just going for everything they can get, so it's going to happen on a tight track like we had at IRP.
Absolutely. And then on the Cup side of things, went to Dover. Miles the Monster definitely grabbed quite a few victims on Monday night, and overall it was a really much better race than I anticipated. We got that early caution, I think on lap 22 or something like that, and then we went, I don't even remember how long of a green flag run we had. Then another caution came out. Then we turned right around and we had another long green flag run. So it was a really good race. Ultimately, like I said, Miles the Monster was not playing nice for a lot of guys. Chandler had his issues, a couple other guys, and man, I hate to bring it up, but Camden, coming off pit road, we talked about it, Peyton, in our chat, while we were practicing. That pit road was going to be a problem all night long, getting on pit road and off of pit road.
Yeah, it's called the Monster Mile for a reason. There is challenges all over that track, and it definitely bit a few guys last night. Dover was kind of an interesting race for us because it really came down to track position and strategy. And it's tire saving. You saw guys who would, run to the front, use tire, then fall back. You saw some guys really try to save tire. And at the end, we had a late caution, and some guys came down late, tried to get some tires. I was one of them. So there was a lot of moving pieces in this race, including all the mayhem with, Monster claiming a few victims. So overall, I'd say it was a pretty fun race. I mean, I didn't have the greatest finish. I think I could finish a little better, but I'm not mad about it. It was actually, I'd say it was a fun race, and a race that you can pass if you're quicker than somebody. Has strategy, has good racing all around. You got to be pretty happy about.
Sorry about that. Apparently, I had a random alarm set for 7:50.
Nice.
Yeah, no, the race definitely, from my perspective, could have went, it could have been better or it could have went worse. I didn't have, until pretty much late in the race, I didn't have a car that could compete for that top 5. But, you mentioned it, a couple of cautions changed the race for a lot of people. Matt, you're one of those guys that caution came out at a very tough time in that second caution. I mean, you pitted literally the lap before the caution came out, trapped yourself a lap down. Actually, I think you were what? Just one lap down.
2 laps down. 2 laps down, took the wave around to get back to 1 lap down.
That's what it was. And then you and Toby just, getting through that field, but used up your tires a little too much there.
Yeah, we said Lightning McQueen it and just go like bad of heck. So, but no, I think the thing about my race was I think you guys had the same problem that first time I watched back to your stream. You had a bunch of comers and goers throughout the whole race, tire wear, and I remember I was listening to Ten's radio, and he said that he wasn't even really pushing and was still losing, and looked like he really losing the right front too. On my end, I ended up spinning out from the lead and hitting the inside wall, so that's why I was starting to fall back too and ended up getting damage from it. But yeah, throughout the whole stint, I think whoever saved the most tires was going to end up winning the race, and that's what Mitch ended up doing. But yeah, on that 2 to go was going to be 7th, 8th, and then lo and behold, yet again, freaking another Auto Club incident where lining up 5th on the inside, get 3rd, and end up 2nd. So I'll gladly take that. Can nickname me Alex Bowman now since I'm backing into all these good place finishes. But no, it was good. It was a good fun race. Dover lived up to the potential that we had last season to this season. So I think Dover's a good one to stay on the Cup schedule.
Yeah, it goes back to the same thing that I keep talking about, and both series are guilty of it. We go to these tracks like Dover or tracks that you think are going to be difficult for people. They're not, it's not going to be a good race. Well, then it turns out to be a great race. We go to quote unquote easier tracks, and those are the problem races. So I don't know if maybe that's people are going into these harder, quote unquote harder races. They're like, all right, let's take it easy for a little bit, just ride around. And then cautions don't exactly happen. And then these easier tracks, they're like, all right, we can just go out there and throw it into these turns, and whatever happens, happens. And, going back to the truck race, talk about throwing it into the turns. Toby Kelsey taking it 4 wide down on the apron, heading into turn 3 that one time, and then taking out the 2 guys on his outside. What a bonehead move that was.
Yeah, Toby's had his run-ins with people before, so Toby's hard racing. So I think at that point he's thinking he's got to get those spots all back made up. But I think thing you saw difference between the Sunday night and Monday night with some people was patience. I think we learned our lesson Sunday night that you have time to get back to the front if you needed. So that's what the main difference was. I think we learned from that from the guys that race on the Cup side, or the race on the Cup side that race on the trucks too. So that's what ended up happening.
Absolutely. It comes down to a track like IRP, and Dover can be hard to pass at too, but IRP, if you're stuck on that inside line, you're going to probably get freight trained along the outside. So, and that's what really leads to those aggressive moves like we saw Toby make and a couple other guys. You got to get those positions when they're readily available. And, I'm not saying that, it wasn't a bad move that Toby made. It was just one that me personally, I wouldn't have made.
No, it was just, oh, you got 10.
That's just kind of, the driver Toby is. Like, I mean, not taking anything to the dude. He's willing to do what it takes to pass guys. So, sometimes, when you drive aggressively, we've all been victim of it. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. It's just kind of the price you pay. But going into what you kind of said, Ronnie, about, guys with the harder tracks being more clean and easier tracks being, kind of wreck fest at sometimes. We get a few cautions here and there. I think it's just because, like Dover, everybody kind of knows, if you push too hard, you're going to lose off the corner. I think a lot of tracks like that and the harder ones, guys are worrying more about actually driving the track. When we go to these easy tracks, I think a lot of guys are like, okay, well, it's an easier track. I can kind of just send it, I can really get away with a lot of things, and that's what they do. What up, Loki?
Yep, Loki making his appearance once again.
The guest star has returned.
Yep. Yeah, Trenton, I mean, you've found yourself, on the receiving end of aggressive moves as well. Last season, definitely a victim of it several times.
Yeah, definitely more often than I'd like to. It just comes down to, kind of mentioned that we had the issue at IRP, just guys' lack of patience. They try to go get what they can, then there's times where maybe we should use a little bit more awareness and consider risk versus reward, and some guys just don't do that.
Absolutely. That's definitely something that a lot of guys can learn, and next week people are going to have to be patient. I mean, it's Bristol, baby. Hey. It's Bristol, and that's going to be something that these drivers are going to have to learn for sure. Let's try to get everything figured back out as my dog just knocked everything off my table. Goofball. But all right.
Wanting to chime in.
He's got a lot. Jesus Christ.
Got a lot to say about the.
He just grabbed his bone and chucked it across the room. I don't know if the camera caught it or not.
Maybe he was showing his opinion of IRP this weekend.
Apparently, he's not liking the topics we're talking about.
Obviously, he's not a fan of that number 6 FanDuel truck that ended up leading almost 90% of the races on Sunday.
Yeah, he threw the bone that's over there laying against a bookshelf. Jesus, Loke.
Man, Loki, I mean, San Francisco 49ers could use you on Sunday.
Say, man, there's some teams out there need a quarterback.
But all right, let's go ahead and let's move on to the NASCAR news that is coming out today. They went through and they updated a bunch of rules. Start us off here, Peyton. Your guy made it happen last season. Well, NASCAR came out and said the Chastain Melon move is no longer going to be used.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit today. There's going to be, people are going to have their opinions on it, and I understand both sides. I'm on the side that I think it's pretty sad that NASCAR had to butt in here and say no more, because I just think it's a move that there's not a lot of guys out there that are willing to do something like that. Like, that was an amazing moment. I mean, it, went worldwide. It put NASCAR on the map there for weeks. People were talking about it. So for you to have that in the sport, that we haven't had something like that happen in a long time, and for you to months later go, we don't want that anymore. I don't like the call. As a business dude or, as a fan, I don't like either of it. So, but that's just me. I get the reason why they did it, but hey, the good news about it is it makes that move that much cooler. It's never been done before and it will never happen again. So shout out to Ross for changing the history books already.
Trenton, how do you feel about it?
No, I'm kind of along the lines of Peyton. I'm not necessarily a fan of it. I mean, like Peyton said, NASCAR hadn't gotten that much attention in how long that we were seeing for weeks, for the next couple weeks, honestly, not even just a couple days, for multiple weeks there. We were still talking about the move that Ross Chastain did to put himself and give him a shot at a championship. But now, obviously, NASCAR made the decision. They felt it was a safety concern that it's not going to be allowed anymore, which is unfortunate. I just am not a fan of the why we wait till now that somebody succeeded at the move to make it illegal. When we had guys like Carl Edwards try it, we had Larson try it, we've seen Sheldon Creed try it in the Xfinity Series, and it was okay for them to try it then. But then now somebody succeeds at it, that's when we make it illegal.
Matt, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking on all that, you guys hit the nail on the head. I think it was once in a lifetime move. I mean, if anybody in the NASCAR Cup Series right now would try it, and everybody would vote Ross Chastain's going to be the guy to do it. I mean, the guy gives 110% almost every week, so you can't knock him for that. But the one thing I'll take about with it is you have him desperation mode. I mean, I don't think you're good. They're basically what they're trying to plan is guys that are going to do the last lap of races that are trying to get all they can. Like if you got a guy in 10th, you don't want a guy going for 5th again, like for just a random points paying race like New Hampshire to do it. So I understand the rule, but I think for the circumstances, I mean, there's like we talked about, there's safety concerns with it. So we'll just see how it goes. No hail melons.
Absolutely, yeah. I can see both sides of the story. How, and this is what NASCAR wanted with the playoffs, is the desperation, the drama. Well, you know what? It played out perfectly in Martinsville with Chastain doing that. The drama, you didn't know who made it and who didn't when he did that, whether he was in or Hamlin was in. And, NASCAR, that's all they wanted was, how do we get more people intrigued in this? And like you guys said, I mean, when was the last time we saw a NASCAR move on the top 10 on ESPN at 11 p.m.? It doesn't happen. NASCAR never gets on there. Well, you know what? Chastain put them on the map with that. But I also, like you just mentioned, Matt, I see the safety concern. Had he ran into the back of someone, especially after we have seen the rear-ended hits, I get it's different at Pocono. He backed into the wall, but we just saw Kurt Busch's career end with it. Suarez was injured a couple weeks prior at Daytona with the same, getting rear-ended in the big one. Had that have happened and someone would have been in pain, then obviously that's a huge concern of NASCAR. And, it's kind of like the new NFL coming out with all these rules for the quarterback. Yeah, they might be stupid at sometimes. You can barely breathe on the quarterback and you're going to get a roughing the passer, but they're trying to protect themselves. And I can see both sides of it. Yeah, awesome move. But at the same time, he not only put himself at risk, he put other drivers, and ultimately, pieces get through that catch fence. Had some get up into the stands and stuff. We're talking a couple, watchers getting hurt, So, yeah, I think it was a good move, but I think it's also a good move on NASCAR to say, all right, that's it. It's a one and done thing. And, who's to say he tries it next year and it works, So, yeah, that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, NASCAR was just being proactive and reactive in that situation. So, I mean, there's a lot of judgment calls in NASCAR. So, I mean, it's just another tale of it. So, good move. Not going to happen again, but I guess Ten can say that his boy is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity making it happen right there.
Yeah, no matter what, I'll always have that clip. I'll never forget. I'll never forget the Hail Melon. I can promise you that.
I don't think anybody will for many years. That was definitely a move we will, even if it didn't become banned, it's not a move that we would see every year.
Oh, no, because, I mean, yeah, Trackhouse might not be a top of the line with Hendrick or Penske and equipment, but not a whole lot of teams can afford that move. He absolutely destroyed that car. Well, you know what? Most of these teams out there rely on that car for the next short track race. So, and that's something that, those drivers got to keep in their mind as well is, maybe we don't drive for that Hendrick or Penske or, whoever. Well, they can't really afford to make that move. You know, the team bank book just can't afford it.
Yeah, there's definitely that factor. You're not going to, granted, I know they're never up there anyway, but you're not going to see a Rick Ware or a BJ McLeod car even think about trying that move because of that point that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes on Trackhouse, and Justin Marks and all those guys. They don't settle. A lot of guys in that situation, they'd be saying, okay, well, good season by us. We weren't supposed to be here. Made the round of 8. I'm going to go around, finish this lap, and we're going to get eliminated. Justin Marks is, Ross Chastain knows Justin Marks supports him. He supported him all year with all the drama Ross was in. And he was confident that if he did that, whether it worked or not, that he was still going to have support by the team. So, just kind of speaks volumes of Trackhouse organization, because not a lot of teams would have did something like that and supported it.
Yeah, it helps on that too. Justin Marks, with his racing background, he's a competitor. He wants to do what he wants to do what it takes to win. So if his driver's going to go for a win, even if he does come up short, Justin Marks is gonna appreciate the fact that he's leaving it all out there on the racetrack.
And even if Justin Marks can't afford that move, well, guess what? You got Mr. Worldwide over there backing you as well, and his multi-million-dollars can definitely afford it.
It's definitely helpful.
But anyone else got anything else to add to this topic? All right, moving on to the second one, rain tires. I know NASCAR's experimented with it before on road courses. The first time I believe they did it was COTA. Or not, I'm sorry, not COTA, but Charlotte Roval 1 year, I think, was the first time they experimented it. But they came out and said that short tracks less than a mile in length besides Dover and Bristol will have rain tires if the conditions call for it. So, I mean, the Clash in a week, if it's raining out in LA, we might just see those rain tires be put to use. Then IRP, Martinsville, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race, Phoenix, and Richmond. And then obviously with that comes the wipers that work, but a lot of teams in the past have had troubles with their wipers. So NASCAR said that their wipers must be in full functioning use. So walk us through, Matt, how you feel about these rain tires and where do you see this leading to in the future?
Not a fan of it. I think we saw what could happen when you race in torrential downpours at COTA a couple of years ago with Custer almost flipping over Truex on the backstretch at COTA. But going to the short tracks, I mean, we had those couple tests a couple of years ago at Martinsville, so they obviously found something they like that they can build off of and work with. But you only think you could see like 4 or 5 of those tracks. I don't think Phoenix will end up raining or LA. It's very, very low chance. So it's just going to be a learning curve with it. Like, and that's the thing. Kudos and NASCAR, they're trying to do something new. I mean, if they think they can build off of it, then by all means just try it. So, but I think the short tracks, you couldn't do it at bigger than a mile track. No. Like, and then you talk about Dover. Like, there's no way that you can race on concrete track. We proved that last night. We were slipping and sliding like crazy. Imagine putting watered down rain tires. You have guys going nose first in the infield wall. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, I'm not a fan of racing in the rain, so hopefully they don't come to that conclusion or be forced to do that. So, but I think it's just damp conditions though, so I don't think if it's raining, so it won't be as bad. But you're still gonna see guys struggle, I think.
Well, you better hope that this doesn't mean iRacing's adding rain and rain tires to their server, because if they do, watch out, buddy. We're going racing in the rain. I can tell you that.
Next, it's racing in the darkness. So hopefully they don't add that either. So.
No, we already tried that. We already tried that. Didn't work out too well.
That didn't work. So if Racing was watching that stream, then they already know that they're not allowed to do it.
Trenton, what you got on the rain tires?
No, like I see both sides of it. I kind of see Tuck's side of things about not liking it. I'm for it as long as we use some proper judgment here. We have a torrential downpour like we had at COTA. We definitely don't need to be racing in the rain. We definitely need to delay the race, even with the rain tires. But if it's just damp conditions and they can still put on a decent show and keep us racing on Sunday instead of keeping the teams and fans there till Monday or Tuesday because of poor weather, I'm all for it. Anything to help get the races in, especially when we get those March, April, and May months where it's known to rain quite a bit anyway throughout various areas of the country.
Absolutely. That's the aspect I'm looking forward to the most is, you mentioned it, carrying over the races from, Sunday into Monday. And then who knows, Monday you got rain again too. So the track might be damp there. I mean, we've seen some Tuesday races. I mean, Daytona 500, I know they're not going to do the rain tires, obviously, at Daytona, but, that race carried over into Tuesday night. So this will change everything when it comes to these tracks. And, I think that's the aspect I'm looking forward to is not having those 3-4 hour rain delays. Thank God NASCAR has gotten better about that. I mean, back in the 2000s, you'd be sitting there for 6-7 hours during the rain delay. They would show previous races, and by the time that race was over, they were still in wet conditions because the track dryers weren't working or whatever. So thank God they got better about that. And, about an hour or so, they'll let you know if the race has been delayed or whatever. But yeah, like you said, it'll help save. It's not fair to the fans that go Sunday and can't see the whole race because Monday morning they got to go back to work. So I think this is NASCAR's way of trying to keep people interested and not guaranteeing them, but helping them to see the race that they paid a lot of money to go see.
Yeah, it helps potentially avoid the situation like we had at Texas there during the COVID year where they were stuck at the track. I know they're not going to use the tires at Texas, but when they were stuck there about 3 days because they were just kept getting this light rain, where if they were at a short track now, if we're at a short track face a similar situation, we can still get the race in if we're at like a New Hampshire, for example.
Yeah, they need it in New Hampshire. I mean, just ask Kyle Busch a couple of years ago when he just about wrecked the pace car.
Yeah.
Peyton, how do you feel about it?
I love it personally. I mean, just kind of like you guys said, NASCAR, one of the problems they run into last year and these last few years is a bunch of rain delayed races. And when that happens, like that loses them a lot of money. They lose a lot of views and everything. So, I know, we might not look at the business point, but, NASCAR as a business has to be successful or we won't have NASCAR anymore. So, I love it because it's going to make it so more races are getting done on Sundays. It's going to help the sport finish these races. It's going to help the fans that go to these races be able to attend them, like you guys said. So, I mean, I know how many times, I know Bristol's not one. It'd be hard for them to do it, but I know I've went to Bristol multiple times and it rained out. So, if they would implement some rain tires there, it'd be nice. But I'm hyped for it. I get the concern, but they talk about damp conditions. They know we can't race in downpours anymore. They know they can't do that. So as long as they're racing or they're being smart about it, instead of drying these tracks for hours and hours upon end, if we can get back going, 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours quicker, even if the track dries out and they switch tires or whatever, I mean, that's a big win. Anything NASCAR can do to get these races in kind of close on time and preferably the day of it's scheduled is huge for the sport.
Absolutely. Moving on to our next topic here. Sticking with the road courses, NASCAR announcing that they will still be awarding the stage points for the Cup Series, but they are going to be done with the stage breaks. Me personally, absolutely love it because, it got dumb there for a while. People would pit right before the pit road closes, and then they'd be back in 30th, but at the end of the start of the next stage, they're right up there in the top 5, top 10. Absolutely hated that. And now that is no longer going to be a factor. Trenton, start us off.
Yeah, I'm kind of along with you. I'm a fan of it. For one, the road course races are so short in terms of laps anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Plus you got the like I said, the strategy portion. I think it opens up more options instead of being stuck to give up stage points. Now you can play various strategies to get the stage points and still potentially have a chance at a win.
Absolutely, Matt.
Yeah, that's what the main thing is for this. You got guys that are. Well, I remember William Byron at Sonoma a couple years ago. He basically dominated that first stage and ended up winning it, and then ended up not getting, I don't think, in the top 10. So he had the best car, and then he finished. So I think it's going to add a lot of strategy back into road courses that we saw before the stages. You mean you had a bunch of three guys that tried three stops compared to two stops. So the crew chiefs are gonna be using their calculators for strategy a lot more for these road course races. But I still think some of the strategy might be playing a factor with the stage points because I think probably they're gonna lengthen or they're gonna set those lengths of the stages close to what maybe probably their fuel run could end up being. So hopefully they don't do that, but I could see NASCAR throwing in between the lines with that too. So, but happy they got away with that because we don't want 2.5 or 5 10-minute breaks for caution laps, so just wasting time too. Either that's also a big factor that went into it. NASCAR listened to the fans and the competitors, so props to them too with that too.
Absolutely. And before we move on to you, Peyton, going along with what the fans wanted, I'm seeing a lot of stuff popping up on social media of it's not making the fans happy, but they're possibly talking next season ending their Fox and NBC contracts and going to a streaming service. And that, I think personally, that'll hurt NASCAR huge. Not everyone can afford cable or whatever, So that'll be interesting to see what those talks come out of.
Yeah, personally, if they go that route, I feel like they need to do like a lot of sports do, have your TV and cable deals with Fox and NBC, but also have a streaming deal for those that prefer that route as well.
Absolutely. Peyton, back to you on the road course, no stage breaks.
Yeah, I got you. We talked about this a bit in the past. I'm very excited that they did this. Tuck kind of hit on it. I'd much rather these teams and crew chiefs be strategizing for when we're going to pit and how many times we're going to pit during a road course than them strategizing, okay, do we want stage points or do we want to race for the win? I always found that really stupid. It was kind of a shit show, to be honest, with how it was played. It's kind of goofy. I mean, you were rewarding guys like there's guys that are winning stages last season that had no business winning stages. They were like 8th, and everybody pits in front of them. They're like, okay, well, I'll take the stage win. Like, that's not really deserved. So thankfully now we're gonna reward guys for qualifying up front, being quick, and we won't have this weird game being played. So very happy that NASCAR's went that direction.
Absolutely. Here's my next question on this topic. Do you see this becoming a norm for NASCAR? Do you see them getting rid of the brakes for all tracks and then just have a set kind of like they do now? All right, stage 1 will end on lap 70, but there's no caution to end the race, like to end that stage. And then just like old NASCAR, they just keep running until 200 laps is done. Do you see this being possibly NASCAR's introduction to this for all future races?
Hey, you want to go?
I'll go. I don't think they will because they want that entertainment side with the restarts. So they're gonna want they made their bed with that in 2017 when they started the stages. I think they're just mainly doing this that way. It takes out basically the best car possibly losing the race or having to make that decision of, oh, do I go for stage points or go for the win? So I think that's kind of why they did it. I don't see them doing it at any other track other than the road courses, though, for just keep on racing with no yellow.
Peyton, what you got?
I agree with Tuck there. He hit it on the head. Trenton mentioned it earlier that the road courses are as shorter as is. So, but with these stage breaks and normal races, like that's a huge advantage for NASCAR. Not only does it get the field all wrapped up back together for entertainment purposes, but those are also guaranteed moments in the race that they can schedule commercials. So that's not time that us the viewers are missing a race that's going on. So all around, that's a big W for NASCAR. So I highly, highly doubt they decide to implement what they're doing at road courses this season to other tracks.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat with Tuck and Peyton here. The only way I can see them potentially doing it is if the going back to the no stages is super successful. But other than that, I don't see them going away from it. Maybe the short track, since you already got a lot of excitement all race with flat traffic and everything. But even then, like Peyton said, those cautions allow us to get those commercial breaks out of the way, so we're not missing any green flag action and potentially miss a tight battle for the lead or something like that.
Absolutely no. I agree with all you guys on they'll keep it. Especially like Matt mentioned the restarts, the drama. You know, it. You go back and you watch on YouTube a replay of 2001 to 2007 race. By lap 30, your leader's ahead by 15 seconds. And this bunches the field back up, and I think for entertainment reasons they will obviously keep it. But moving on to our last NASCAR topic here is the new rule that the rule that they are dropping the top 30 in Cup and the top 20 in Xfinity to make the playoffs has been eliminated, but they still must make all the races or get a waiver. Me personally, not a fan of this. The top 30, obviously that's a good chunk of the Cup and 20 for Xfinity, but now my thing is, cool. Cody Ware goes out there and wins a Daytona or Talladega. Homeboy sitting 34th in the points, doesn't get another top 30 the rest of the season. Congratulations, you are now in the playoffs, taking a spot from someone else. Kind of like, and I absolutely love McDowell, but exactly what he did a couple seasons ago when he went out there and won the 500. No one, everyone knew he didn't have a shot at the playoffs. Granted, Front Row Motorsports has really, truly stepped up their game in recent seasons. But, you're going to have these guys that now win anyone can win race, and now they're in the playoffs. So, me personally, not a fan of this. Start us off, Trenton.
Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely despise it. Granted, I'm not a fan of the winning you're in anyway, because I think even if you're 25th or 30th in points, if you look into the win at the Daytona 500, for example, that to me doesn't speak that you should be in the playoffs versus a guy that's been able to run top 15 all year deserves a chance before a guy that got that one super speedway win that they like Michael McDowell got a couple years ago that kept some good guys out of the playoffs that could have potentially made a bigger run, where Michael McDowell everybody knew he was going to be out after the round of 16.
Right, exactly, kind of like Cindric just did last season. Obviously Cindric had a couple good races, couple top 10s, but he won the Daytona race, and because of that, we damn near saw the second place guy of Ryan Blaney in the standings and the fourth place guy of Truex, potentially both those guys missing the playoffs when both those drivers had legitimate excuses to be in the playoffs. And I just think that that's really going to start with this rule going away. I think you're going to start seeing that a little more here. Somebody?
There you go, talk.
All right. Like what Ronnie said earlier, that you didn't want. I mean, let's just say like we go to the Coke Zero 400, last race for the regular season, rain out. I mean, it does rain in Daytona all the time. So saw a couple of years ago where Justin Haley took that Spire car to victory lane with the rain shortened race. So who's to say that like we talked about Ty Dillon sitting 30th, 30 points on a Spire car takes up that last final spot for the playoffs. So I think the playoffs should be the guys that are going to compete for the championship, not going to be guys that back into it. So I think what I liked it back in the early 2010s where you had that top 20 and you had those wild cards too. I think that's kind of the good route to do if you're wanting to emphasize winning in a way. But no, somebody that's outside the top 30 points doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I mean the Chicago Bears and Houston Texans didn't make the playoffs, only win 2 games in the NFL. So not a fan.
That's my big argument too. Like, you're not going to see the 28th ranked NBA team in the playoffs this year. So why should we be putting the 28th ranked driver in points in the playoffs just because he was able to find victory lane in a race?
Agreed. Peyton, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Tuck just kind of hit it on the head there. That the old chase format, if they would really want to emphasize wins, I'd prefer that. But I do understand the argument for the guys in the back. It's almost kind of penalty of the field. Like, if somehow you guys seriously let Cody Ware or somebody like that win a race, it's kind of like, come on guys, what'd you do that week? But the thing that opens up to me is, let me give you a scenario, Daytona. Reddick pushed Dillon to the win, but let's say both of those guys were in the playoffs and Ryan Blaney's the first guy, on the bubble. What if those guys just said, okay, we don't want to race Ryan Blaney for a championship. Let's just push Cody Ware to the win at Daytona, so he gets in. That's a free guy we beat. So it worries me with that. With Daytona being the cutoff race, you might see some shenanigans where guys are like, let's push this guy to eliminate this guy, because we prefer to go against him than him. You heard guys talk about that on the bubble race at Daytona last year, who they'd rather get in. So, yeah, I mean, I get the point. I mean, they're trying to reward these small teams for, showing up every week and they somehow get lucky and win a race. But like both of them said, I think it's kind of goofy that we're letting guys who run 25th, 30th every week, if they randomly win, race for championship. Come on now. That's a little goofy. The really big thing for me is the lower series. I think Cup, we only have, 31 guys that were full-time last year. So, I mean, you only added one spot. It makes me more worried about the guys in the lower series because they at least the line there was 20. So, I mean, that line made a lot more sense. Now that it's gone, I mean, now it opens up the floodgates for those little series. So, that's really where I think this is going to matter more with that decision. That's what I'm worried about now for them.
I think the thing for Xfinity and trucks, though. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No, you're good. Here's my thing with that. Going back to what you said, Peyton, was the whole, how could you guys let Cody Ware win? Well, let's take it back to the 2012 Daytona 500. Everyone pits. Dave Blaney gets handed the lead. Juan Pablo Montoya breaks his suspension, smacks the jet dryer. I didn't think we were going back racing. If something like that happens, Merry Christmas to whoever just got handed that win. So that's my problem with that statement you made there is, yeah, you can be like, all right, how did that guy win? Well, we've seen it happen before. NASCAR's unpredictable, so that's my biggest problem is now you're letting like that, like we said, how, no other sport does it. How are we letting a 32nd ranked guy make the playoffs?
I got your point on that, but NASCAR, even more than other sports, there's a lot of luck that goes into NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
We see guys luck into wins all the time, and we see
Matt
guys
Tucker.
that have terrible luck back out of wins. I mean, Martin Truex last season should have won at least one race, if not two, and he just kept finding ways to lose races. So, if you have guys that find ways to lose, you're going to have guys that find ways to win. So, while I get your point on that, and that would, it's going to suck, if that happens and someone gets in like that, it's just kind of part of racing, in my opinion, on that.
Well, and there's the part too with the whole Daytona. We can still have the rain delays. What if a race gets canceled and Cody Ware takes that chance, even though he's ran 30th all race, takes that chance, stays out, even though he's going to run out of gas if we go back green, and if we don't go back green, he just got handed the win and a playoff spot by this rule.
Yep.
Man, we're all giving Cody Ware a bunch of slack through this topic. But no, I mean, look, they just got an alliance with Stewart Haas Racing. Let's say Rick Ware Racing improved their stuff, and he goes out and runs top 20 almost every week now.
Who's to say Cody Ware doesn't sell his team and he takes over Harvick's ride next season? Huh?
That's what I'm saying. He's about to make it Stewart Haas. Get ready for the Cody Ware career. He's about to get out here. He's about to have a good season for, and then he's going to get to Stewart Haas next season, start winning races. You just be ready. Just be ready for it, man.
All right,
Peyton.
Peyton.
All this crap about Cody Ware.
Go home, Peyton. You're drunk.
Hashtag Ware for Ware.
And Haley Deegan's going to win the
Let's go. Exactly. Get ready for it.
And Haley Deegan's about to win the Truck Series Championship too, right, Tim?
All right, chill out.
Okay. All right.
Let's come back to reality here.
You're done.
But, yeah, moving on to Haley Deegan. A couple guys announced full-time for SRX. Ryan Newman, Bobby Labonte. Clint Boyer's going to be filling in for a couple races. That ought to be pretty fun. Yeah, they're starting. Keselowski is running full-time as well. So a bunch of these guys are going to have some full plates ahead of them. Keselowski's obviously running for that Cup championship. Deegan's running for the truck. So it's going to be interesting to see just how these guys can balance racing on Thursday night and then heading into the weekend.
I think the biggest thing with that wasn't just the announcement that Keselowski was racing, but what he said, because he was saying that there wasn't enough enough practice throughout the whole week. So I don't know if that was a shot at NASCAR or what he was saying to get more seat time or what. But that's what I took from it, was him saying that he gets him more seat time.
Well, NASCAR has cut back on it.
They have, and that's their money. For their money saving, but
Mhm.
it kind of opens the door for throughout the summer. That's what the SRX is doing, trying to get races closer to the NASCAR schedule, and then also moving to Thursday nights. So maybe, who knows? You maybe see more full-time Cup Series drivers race the full season for the SRX.
Yeah, I think it's cool too to see some of these other drivers going over and venturing in different series. Like SRX, you see Larson doing it all the time in the dirt, and we see how it's translated for him. I mean, he'll be the first to tell you that his driver's craft by getting those other races in probably helped him win that championship a couple years ago. So again, it opens up that opportunity because, like Brad mentioned, we don't have the practice that we had before COVID. So if anything, it's just seat time. Even if it's not a track they're going to, it's that extra seat time. And the SRX and I think SRX is really going to be able to benefit too, just as a series as a whole, being on a Thursday, because you don't see NASCAR, a lot of major series racing on Thursdays. So that opens the opportunity up for some of those guys to go and race on a Thursday night like that in the midweek, since we don't have, no NASCAR or IndyCar or anything like that. They don't race on Thursdays.
My only question or concern about that is Thursday night football. Obviously that's huge, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be overlapping each other. So that's going to be my big question.
SRX is in the summer, Ronnie, so it wouldn't with Thursday night football.
No?
Yeah. SRX is midsummer.
Yeah, SRX
right.
is July.
You're right, 'cause it starts
July.
in June and July. Yeah, that's true.
So the only thing it'd be interfering with is with what? Baseball.
Golf.
Yeah, there's baseball.
They don't golf at
Yeah, I bet you they have track
baseball,
lights
but-
around that golf course.
bowling,
Yeah.
right here, bowling.
Yeah,
Bowling's on.
bowling. But I mean, at the end of the day, with baseball, you can watch baseball 7 days a week. I don't think
Mhm.
the people that want to watch SRX, they're not going to let baseball affect
Yeah.
them for one night.
I mean, hell, you got 179 other games you can go watch of baseball. So,
Exactly.
That's true.
but Peyton, what do you got on it?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was kind of surprised that, like with Haley and Brad being full time, I find it kind of wild that they would, fully commit to, another series. 'Cause that takes a lot of time and effort. But, Tuck kind of mentioned it, Brad, said, kind of took a shot at NASCAR there. So I guess, that maybe they have more time than I'm thinking. So if Brad, Brad's one of the smarter guys out there. If he feels like, he can afford to do this full time, he has the time to do it, then I'm sure they have enough time to do it. So I'm pretty excited to see Brad go out there. We've seen Haley out there, and of course I like Haley, but Brad's one of those guys that I didn't really ever think about XRX. Like when they came out, like I never thought of Brad being the one to kind of step into it, but I think he'll be an interesting driver to kind of, compare to other guys in that field. It should be a nice little story to watch next season.
Absolutely, yes, sir. But we have got a modified race to get ready for at Bristol tonight. Anyone else got any closing comments to make tonight?
$5. I heard you can give yourself 35 extra points if you wreck that 17.
I'm on it. Hold my beer.
No, I just want to say thanks to Pierce for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Last spur of the moment thing. So making your podcast debut, Pierce, I think was a pretty successful one.
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
I
his
enjoyed it.
debut. Weren't you on a couple episodes last season, or like back when we did it the first time?
No, I was going to, but the schedules never aligned.
Yeah.
Okay.
First timer, rookie.
Wow. You know who hasn't made their
Welcome.
debut yet this season? Tux
Who's
Microwave.
that?
Tux Microwave.
No.
You gotta ever go shut the door. You gotta.
Shut the door real quick. Just do it real quick. Oh, you turd.
Well, maybe next time, huh?
Yeah, maybe next
It's
time.
always next week.
Right?
We'll implement it.
Absolutely. But guys,
Make
it
fun of
was
the intro.
yeah.
Yeah.
But guys, it was a lot of fun tonight getting back in here for episode 4 here of season 2. Like I said, we got a modified race to go get ready for at Bristol, and then next Sunday and Monday, the Trucks and Cup head to Bristol for their races. So, looking forward to getting some seat
Maybe.
time. We just talked about how how good it's, how important it is. So looking forward to go practice some things tonight. But guys, thanks for joining us here, and we will catch you guys next week when we head to Season 2, Episode 5 for the podcast. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and good night.